All right, I'm going to call to order our planning commission for December 13th, 2023. The time is 6:01. All right, let's move on to our commissioner reports. Don, do you have anything?
I do not.
Brenda, Justin, you guys have anything?
Nope, that's it.
No.
The only thing I'm going to talk about, I'd like to have a discussion at the end of our workshops today to discuss January, doing a vote on a new chair. And I don't mind doing it, by the way, I'm not trying to take it away, but we're supposed to be doing this every 2 years, and we've never had any like true votes going on and keeping track of this. I'd like to do this in January when we come back in and elect a chair and a vice chair. And then beyond that, going forward, so the city can just do it every January on an even year. Other than that, I don't have anything. So we'll move on to staff reports.
Just real quickly, we were informed that we've received 2 grants in the last 2 weeks on transportation. So we received $754,000 from Transportation Improvement Board to add to the 6th Avenue project from Russell to Craig Avenue. So that will enable us to construct traffic circles along there to assist in calming, so keeping the speeds lower, which was part of the goal of bringing the traffic on, but not making sure that it was still reasonable through the residential areas. And we also received notification that we were awarded $850,000 from the Sandy Williams Connecting Community Grant for construction. So we had received funds last year for design of $2 million. And so this is construction money. So we can use that as match money going after construction money for Lawson to Lundstrom to help build that roadway. So we're super excited about these grant funds and helping us move forward with those projects.
Nice.
And I'll talk a bit more about some of the work we're going to be doing this next year, but just a reminder, we did also receive $50,000 to address middle housing, which is now a requirement for the city of Airway Heights. So I'll be putting this RFP, which stands for Request for Proposals, on the streets tomorrow. And so we'll be hopefully hiring a consultant after the first of the year to begin working on new housing standards for Airway Heights, which are very sorely needed.
Nice. How much does that bring grants total for the year? No need to put you on the spot.
We got 2.42 million from FibSib for 6th Avenue. We got the 1.6, so that makes it 4. We got the 6 million. We got the 2 million for US2, so that makes it 6. I think 6 million this year.
6 million. Nice. What was like 5 years ago? 0.
2 years ago, we
Yeah,
didn't get any money at all, except for we did get a grant for 10th Avenue. That was about 2.5, but that was in 2020. So before 2020, we had about a 10-year dry spell. We had not received any transportation grants.
Yeah, let's keep those things we keep working on with that comp plan and everything going.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, and the new comprehensive plan is online. So it's the web-based version that we wanted. And so it's all interactive, it's visual. You can click all the way through it. You can search immediately by applicable goal and policy. If you want to look at land use policies, it'll go pre-sort and list it for you. So it's all up and loaded, and we are done with that project.
Nice. Nice.
Until
So start over.
Yeah.
Well, if that's all you have, let's go ahead and get this roll call done. Commissioner Ponce.
Present.
Commissioner Collins, present. Commissioner Campbell is excused. Commissioner Mitchell.
Present.
Commissioner Davis.
Present.
And Commissioner Dove is excused tonight. Can I get somebody to make a motion for the approval of the agenda tonight?
Move to approve the agenda.
We need to second that.
I'll second it.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from last month?
Motion to approve the minutes for last month.
Second on that motion.
Second again.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we don't have public comment tonight. We don't have presentations tonight. We don't have public hearings tonight, so we'll move on to our workshops.
Okay. So I just pack it up on the screen and we'll just go through this very quickly. So, let me stop sharing for some reason or we're stuck. Yeah, I'll go over to the website real quick and see what's going on there. So maybe. Here we go. Open it real quick. There we go. It's just loading, so it'll be just a moment before I put it up on the screen. So, one of the requirements of the Growth Management Act is that your zoning is consistent with your comprehensive plan. And in order to do that, because there were changes to the land use categories, into the land use categories, we're going to go through and amend. Where'd everybody go? There we go. We're going to go through and officially amend the zoning map as well.
You were on it, Heather, when you were just back at your share thing. It's down there with that Google Chrome image. You're just on the Zoom on your web browser.
Okay. Which there we go. Apologize for that. The funky screen. So what this means is that we would be proposing to go through what's called a citywide rezone action. So we would take rezones throughout the city that would be needed in order to be consistent with the comprehensive plan. We'd adopt them in a single action under a single map. This is the overlay zones and the zoning map that we are proposing to have. And if you look closely, some of these items will look more familiar. So for example, along Hayford Road, there was a proposal to go from industrial to residential. When we looked at portions of the area, the northwest part of the city, which are now medium blue, previously those have been light blue, which was low density residential and commercial. We would be rezoning areas around Sunset Park and Sunset Elementary, just north of the commercial area along Highway 2 for high density residential. So there's a little presentation that Zachary put together today for you to go through each of these one by one so that you can see what those specific changes are and the reason for them. So we've covered the consistency part of the requirements, and this is just a little background on how we got to where we're at with our current zoning map. So I'm going to go through here. We have been very historically updating the zoning map, not just with the zoning, but also include the child and the airport overlay zones. We find that it's a lot more visually descriptive. Someone who calls us and says, what can I do? And we can say, hey, look at the map. Can you see the big dark rectangle? Can you see the wavy lines? That means that there's an overlay zone on this property that's going to impact what the underlying zone allows. And we have that happen all the time where someone will go in and take a look at the code and say, hey, the code says I can do this. And then we say, hey, go look here. And you can see that there's an overlay. That means that it supersedes the underlying zoning. It could be more restrictive than what the underlying zone allows. And that's very true, for example, about residential. We all know anywhere below the squiggly line or in the dark black gray rectangle, we can't do residential at all because of the flight area for Fairchild. So We'll just start here over in the northeast portion of the city. You'll notice these kind of funky areas that are green. That's because those are actually public right-of-way that extend through the Kalispell Tribal Trust land. And one of the things that's really important when you do zoning is make sure that everything matches up and all the lines touch. And so these were designated as public use in the proposal for the updated residential zoning map. So we wouldn't have a gap of zoning over those public right-of-ways. We also updated the mixed use overlay to make sure that it's reflective of where it should apply on the property because of this contour. So just a reminder, when there's property that's located on this outermost flexing boundary, our code says that upon a conditional use permit, someone can do a mixed use development, which is apartments over office or retail. And so we were cleaning up those designations on this map. We talked a little bit about the medium density residential area also in the Northeast. Previously, it had been industrial. We desperately need additional residential area in the city. This is outside of the Fairchild and the Spokane International Area Overlay Zone, which restricts residential use. We talked to the property owners, including one of these pieces right here, which is owned by the Kalispell tribe. And they were in favor of moving forward with residential zoning, and it's proposed to be medium density residential. Now, with that caveat, in the midst of this process, the owner of 3 of these lots passed away. And his a widow is still interested in selling the property. The property has actually been for sale this entire time. And the realtor is working with her because she wasn't involved in the land use to let her know about this. If we get further in the process and they came forward and said, hey, she doesn't want to rezone at this time, I just want to make you aware that that could be a possibility because of change of circumstances for her from where we were working with the realtor and the property owners passing away. Because Airway Heights is a small town. Our next one is the downtown area. So this was first identified in the downtown plan, and the downtown plan, the strategy there was that in order to support a downtown area, which was identified as the area between Lawson and Lundstrom and partially at King Street on both sides of US 2, that there should be higher density to support that type of need for commercial use. So the consultant had recommended, and we adopted into the downtown plan, that that area should be high density residential. Now that area is mostly developed. There are only a relatively small scattering of vacant lots at this time. So this would be a longer term vision, is eventually at some point in which property values were such that it made sense to buy them, incur the cost of demolition, and then redevelop at higher densities. So this is kind of, again, a longer term vision. Remember, the conference plan is a 20-year vision. It's not just 1 or 2 years, but that's what's reflected when you look at the orange becoming the dark blue. Now, there was one additional technical area which had to do with designating of city buildings. So if you notice,
Recording in progress.
Can't hear you.
Okay. Get it. Here, put it on. Do it.
It'll pick up what you're saying or no?
Oh, yeah, it's a really good question. Is, can everybody
can
hear
hear
us?
you.
Okay, sorry. Thank you for letting us know.
Oh, that's okay.
I think what happened is last user didn't charge it. So we've only been here for about 25 minutes. So it normally lasts hours and hours. Okay. Someone's great. There we go. Okay. And if at any point we're too quiet, let us know. So I can really raise the volume. All right. So part of the process of adopting a comprehensive plan is making sure all your development regulations are consistent. And this normally happens more stringently with those periodic updates, which are supposed to happen every 8 years. Our next periodic updates has to be completed by 2026. What is happening is that in 2023 in particular, the state legislature adopted a whole series of new requirements that affect zoning, how we do environmental review, and how we process applications. So we will be needing to update many of these code provisions this coming 6 months before we launch into the next periodic update. And so those are going to include chapter 14. So believe it or not, there actually is a law, which is called regulatory reform under RCW 3670B, that tells every agency that's under growth management how long they can take to process an application. And this is a zoning application before anybody asks me if this applies to building permits. Zachary and I have been obligated then while we work here to meet these requirements, which are generally 120 days. For those that require a public hearing, that's the maximum you're allowed to have to process an application. And we rock it, we get there, we get it done. Some of those requirements have changed under new state legislation, which will actually decrease the amount of time available for agencies to process most types of applications, and some will increase. And I'll go into that in more detail, but I really wanted to kind of give you a visual of what we're going to be amending. We also are going to be looking at inconsistencies between our processing requirements and the applications. And case in point, we've adopted a hearings examiner system. So in the state of Washington, you can opt to use a third-party professional to hear your land use cases, provided you adopt an ordinance to do that. We did that, but we only gave certain types of cases to the hearings examiner. One of them being a conditional use permit, which is a use that can go in a zone, but it's reviewed on a case-by-case basis through a hearing. And the other is a variance. All other types of decisions, the city council retained. That's uncommon when local agency adopts a hearings examiner, because hearings examiners are professionals, they're often attorneys, they're specialized in land use law. And so a typical conditional use permit, we could end up with 15 or 20 hours of work by hearings examiner, because they're researching the case, they're researching case law, they're writing findings that have to be legally defensible upon appeal, and so forth. The other part that we're really getting to is, strangely enough, in the city of Fairway Heights, the council didn't fully defer decisions over the hearings examiner, but still requires every decision the hearings examiner makes to still be vetted through the city council, which potentially has conflict with state law, because it limits for developers the liability of having multiple decisions on the same application. That's one of the reasons why regulatory reform was passed, was so that developers wouldn't have this kind of double jeopardy. So the state law says that we can only have one open record and one closed record hearing. And so we're going to be looking at this administrative code to bring some suggestions forward to streamline it and make it more consistent with the state law, as well as any updates that are required. And that's just one of the several projects. The other area that we're going to be working on immediately is with regards to the environmental standards. So who all has heard of SEPA? Raise your hand, turn your thumb up on your computer, show yourself on the camera, whatever. Who's heard of SEPA? Brenda's heard of it too. Justin's heard of it. Okay. So it's a mandatory review of virtually everything, every development project, a plan that we adopt, a development regulation we adopt, roads, streets, everything has to go through this. And the purpose of SEPA is to analyze the impacts that it's going to have, not just on the, the regular elements of wetlands and shorelines and bird habitat. It also analyzes it on the built environment. So is it going to be creating additional traffic congestion? Is it going to be creating traffic safety issues? Are there going to be issues of light and glare that affect neighboring residential properties? Speaking of which, there's giant lights now over off of Hayford Road now that I want to look more into, because I can see them 2 miles away at my house now. So it's intended as a tool to analyze the impacts, and it doesn't mean that a local agency can eventually adopt or pass an approval for a project. It just means that it provides for information to help those decision makers. Well, there's a section of this that is in the state law. It's called flexible thresholds. And within that, the state says anything below this threshold, an agency cannot do environmental review on. And they adopted a range. So for below this, you can't require SEPA, but you can adopt a little bit higher level to a maximum established in the Washington Administrative Code. Most agencies, like Airway Heights, passed the minimum. So you're catching a lot of projects in requiring environmental review. So as the years have gone by and as the housing crisis has increased, SEPA has been used as a tool to delay projects. And so over 2022 and 2023, the state legislature made sweeping changes with regards to SEPA, which included raising the minimum threshold for projects to go through without SEPA. So that's reducing the amount of time it takes to get a project on the ground. And this was mostly focused around residential development. So for example, SEPA, under the ordinance that we adopted, you could build up to 20 without doing SEPA. That's been substantially raised, and we will have to adopt those minimums. Other sweeping legislation around SEPA had to do with certain parts of changes to your housing, that if you did them by a certain date, then the state guaranteed that you could not be appealed under SEPA for adopting a regulation that facilitated for housing. So these were the kind of changes that the state enacted in order to help get housing onto the grid. But we'll be coming back to this particular section, and we'll be discussing the new minimums as well as the maximums and identifying what we want our threshold to be. So this again will make it easier for development to be processed, because literally it will take less time. Okay. Those are the first two out the gate. Now we're also going to be making some modifications to subdivision. Now Mark will remember this. We adopted in 2022 changes to the short subdivision provision based on a grant we got, which said you can use this grant money to raise your threshold for when you can still do a short plat. Now, short plat is a type of subdivision of property that is administrative. It doesn't require hearing, and developers love it because there isn't the additional cost of the notice and the additional process of hearing. Prior to 2022, it was only 4 lots. That was the maximum you could create. We raised it to 9. There are some additional technical things that we want to clean up in here, like ensuring that we can have consistent notice provisions when a notice is required for an application. Whether it's legal notice, or posted notice, or mail notice, etc. So, and we're also going to be updating this to go with a more electronic format. We've been accepting all applications electronically since 2020. We don't take paper applications anymore in our department. So us having a code that says that you're going to have to give me 10 paper copies or 6 paper copies of your preliminary plat application. Like, I still get calls today, like, when do I have to drop off these paper copies? Like, I don't want. So we'll be making those updates as well. We then are going to move into the zoning code. And I just mentioned before the meeting that tomorrow, hopefully fingers crossed, I'll get the request for proposals out to hire a consultant to update our residential code to address the missing middle requirements. Missing middle, just again, is we're required by state law, we have to pick 6 of 9 different kinds of housing that will be allowed in zones where single family housing is permitted. So that's 95% of the city that has residential zoning will have 2 things that will be required. That will be that every lot will now have to be allowed to have 2 dwelling units. And that we will have to pick 6 out of 9 different counts of housing types. So duplex, triplex, 4plex, 5plex, 6plex, courtyard apartments, flats, clustered housing, and townhomes. So I have to pick 6 of those 9. And we have to modify the development regulations so that every single lot can have 2 homes on it, which will also include that we have to modify our current requirements for an accessory dwelling unit, which is non-compliant with state law as it is, because it requires a conditional use permit. But the new standards for accessory dwelling units required by the state are you can no longer require an owner to occupy one of the units, and that we have to modify the standards by which it is served, including that we're going to be able to require parking, and we have to allow for both the option of an internal ADU and an external ADU for each lot. An accessory dwelling unit used to be called granny flats sometimes. They're pretty detailed requirements that we'll have to meet when we modify this chapter. So all these changes to the residential, including the R1, the RM, and the R2 zone, will occur over this next year. A consultant we hope to have on board right after the first of the year will be adopted by the end of 2024. So you will start to get pieces of that brought forward to you. So the early discussion, the audit of our code, the audit of our comp plan, identifying what we're going to be doing. We're going to be creating a housing advisory committee. We're requiring them to do a robust engagement process to help people understand what this means for housing and help inform how it's going to look and how we're going to regulate it in the future. And then as a side job, we're going to be also, hopefully in the next 6 months, updating the commercial zones. We've talked about this before about we just generally need to consider other kinds of commercial because the comp plan has policy about considering a neighborhood retail area. So we need to actually consider that. So having commercial areas within a 10-minute walk to residential areas. So what does that look like in the landscape? What would it look like per zone? What would it include? We might look at designating properties that are not directly fronting on US 2 as a different kind of zone besides highway commercial because they're not running the highway. And then we'll probably do some minor updates to the industrial zone, which is the I2 and the I1 zone as well. And associated with that, we already have in process and we're already nearing 60% completion is we'll be updating the landscaping code. So this is all of the standards for landscaping for new development. So we'll be getting that into your hands probably by spring, late summer of this year. The work's already begun. And we also are asking for consideration during the residential code update when we do the commercial and the industrial. We're going to be updating the parking. So remember I talked about the bill that requires us to allow for accessory dwelling units is also not going to allow us to require additional parking for those. We actually generally are going to be looking at significant proposed reductions in required parking for the city or even elimination of parking potentially in some areas of, as you may know, heard this before, eventually Spokane Transit Authority wants to make US 2 what they would call a high frequency transportation corridor. So eventually as part of their long range plan, there would be 15-minute service along the corridor. And that is a magical number when it comes to state legislation and thinking about transit-oriented development or flexing your parking requirements because people will be within walking distance. Usually it's within a quarter mile of a high performance transit route, that you start to look at maximizing lot size for development and minimizing or getting maximums in parking. Okay, this is a lot. Is everybody still with me?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So those are the main focus areas we will have over the next months. And the goal is to get many of these pieces updated before we have to launch into this next periodic update. Because once we get working on that, which we will have funding from the state available to us on July 1st of 2024. We have to have that work completed by June 30th of 2026. It will be all hands on deck for Zachary and I just to get through that. Because the changes that are coming or with this next update are substantial, and they're mostly around climate change and sustainability. So some really heavy lifts on analysis and strategies to reduce vehicle miles traveled, to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, which mean an increase in multimodal opportunities and incentives as we move forward with the project. So that is in a nutshell what we're potentially looking at for work for all of 2024 to 2026.
Nice.
So I think Mark had mentioned to some of the planning commission members, when Zach and I came in 2020, that things were kind of slow. I've heard former commission members come up and talk to me and say, we never got anything done, we never did anything. That is not true anymore. So we really rely upon everybody here in the commission on participation and voice in this process, because we really need to hear from you to help guide the direction of so many of these initiatives.
Nice.
Yeah.
Hi. That sounds great.
I'm tired already.
That's a lot.
You're wanting to go back to the sheet you had, right?
Oh, we have to change it on that. Sorry. I don't know why it looks so different.
Be weird because that little where it says Pleasant Jones is. the
Can you hear
actual-
me?
There
Pleasance
we go.
Jones?
Yes, we can hear
Oh,
you.
hi. Hi. I'm figuring this out still. I'm listening though.
Oh, good. There we go.
Yeah, I've been here. I just can't get my picture up there for some reason.
Oh, that's okay.
No worries.
No worries.
Great, great. That's a lot. It's a lot got a lot going on now.
Yeah. More and
It's
more. Yeah, it is exciting. Challenging though.
Yes, it looks like, yes, you need to, yeah, there's a lot.
Okay, so next is review of the applications for the vacant planning commission seat. With that, I'll hand this over to you.
Well, I mean, I read Pleasance earlier, and then I read that late one we got. Did you get to see him by chance, Tom?
Yes.
Did Justin, Brenda, did you guys by chance get to look over those applications or no?
Yeah, I did.
I wasn't able to, I was at work.
Oh, no worries. You can either pull it up on your packet right now, Brenda, or I don't know if Heather, you can scroll down to show it in the packet. And we have Pleasance here. I don't think we have, can't remember her name offhand,
Melanie Kern.
Melanie.
Oh,
So
lovely.
we can just go ahead and talk with Ms. Jones right now. So Ms. Jones, you're like actively involved already in the community, correct?
Yes.
Well, why don't you tell us about yourself and what you looking forward to do to help the city or work with the city, shall I say?
Okay. Well, my two kids and I just moved here about 2 years ago, and we just come from Spokane Valley. But and so I've gotten into, my daughter goes to Sunset, and they let me volunteer in there whenever after COVID they let me. I've been cleared to go in there. I go in the classroom with my daughter, and then I have a Girl Scout troop, and there's 7 girls in that from all 3 schools, Cheney and Medical Lake and Airway Heights. Um, I've been I just want to be involved. I want to get to know, because this little city here has like quadrupled in the last 2 years, and it just seems as though I could help in some sort of way, because I think we need it.
Well, I appreciate that. I love this city and I love to see it grow and I love to see people help make it grow. So it's always welcome to see that. Don, Brenda, Justin, you guys have any questions? Anything you want to know?
No, I don't have any yet at this moment.
Same here, none.
Mm-mm.
Well, Ms. Jones, I appreciate you telling us about yourself. Welcome to the city. I know we don't make the decision. That'll be off to city council. We may discuss it as a commission to make a recommendation to the city. But regardless, it'll be the city council that makes that final decision. But I appreciate your time tonight and telling us about yourself.
Yeah, thanks for letting me join in and including me on those Monday night meetings that I attend. It's great to be informed.
Yes, it is. The commission's fun in itself too, because you're always being informed about what's going on in the city and you get this like firsthand knowledge from city staff that's very knowledgeable. But you also get to help make decisions that the city ends up having to adopt, right? And there's just something about doing that.
Yeah, it's great. I enjoy learning about it all, and I enjoy seeing the teamwork that the committee has.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Ms. Jones. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you for letting me join. You guys have a good evening.
You too. Thank you. Now, we have this other applicant, Melanie Kern. Don, Justin, you both said you got to read that one as it came in, correct?
Yes.
Brenda, that I don't know if you got a chance, but the same as Miss Jones, they just seem very active in the community, and I think both of them would be good candidates in general. So I don't necessarily have a view one way or another. I don't know if we want to make any type of recommendation to city council based on that. I would like to speak to Melanie. We have enough people.
She indicated she was gonna be able to attend today, so I did provide her an address and the Zoom link to get in, so I'm not sure why she wasn't able to attend today. I'll just check my email over and see if she gave us a last minute message.
We have 6 members right now, so we can afford to lose 2 before we drop out of quorum. If we could get her on next month's agenda to meet, and then we can discuss it amongst ourselves after that, and then maybe if we want to do that as a commission, send a recommendation off to city council. But right now, I know I'm definitely not. I don't think it would be appropriate to do anything like that. I don't know about the rest of the commission, especially with how
No,
Bill.
I would definitely like to talk to her because of what she had on their application there with the American Planning Association, and she was completing courses in urban design and public policy. Like, I would like to see what that focus is on, and what she'd be able to contribute with that.
Okay, well then I think that's the best decision, is to see if we can't get her to join us on our meeting next month. And then from there, we can discuss it as a commission, what we think is the most appropriate action for city council?
I just pulled up the planning commission, portion of the city's website, so you can just Google us anytime, Airway Heights Planning Commission. So, it's position 4 that's vacant, with a term that expires in, January 31st of 2025.
Okay,
Okay.
so we need to handle Brenda's and Don's position though, because they're gonna expire next month.
2024,
Oh,
January 31st of 2024.
Okay, so they get next month and then,
Yeah,
It
so, yeah, so at the next meeting on,
wow.
January. Our next meeting will be January 10th. Would be an opportunity, we could actually, if you wanted to make a recommendation or we could go straight to the city council.
okay. Yeah, it'd be nice to meet her and just like Justin said, hear some more about what she's doing and then make that decision from that point.
So. Just to clarify, Brenda, are you willing to continue to serve as a planning commission member?
Yes, I also have that training tomorrow or that little class that's being held.
Oh, the short course?
Nice.
Yep, at 1 p.m.
Great.
Gonna make us all look bad, Brenda.
Why? You guys didn't do this too?
Heather's gonna get on to me sooner than later. It won't be the first time either.
What is this?
Okay, always training opportunities.
Fair.
Don, are you willing to continue to serve? Okay.
Sure.
So what I would propose is on that, issue of appointment. That is legislative. Study session. So we have plenty of time in January for the city council to reappoint you, so it would either be the 8th or the 22nd.
So if we can get them to do 3 different motions on one day, that'd be kind of nice.
Okay. I'm gonna target appointments of the 7th position number 4.
Mhm.
Okay. 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 So Pleasance, what that means is that after the next meeting of the planning commission on the 10th to meet the other candidate, we will be forwarding the candidates to the city council for a decision on January 22nd.
Okay,
So that's how the two can.
sounds good.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Ms. Jones.
Yeah, thank you. I'll be at next Monday's meeting also.
Nice.
There I won.
So I think that was our last workshop thing for the night, and there's nothing else on there. I would like to talk amongst ourselves here, because can you pull that up by chance, the planning commission rules, where it spells out every 2 years that we elect a chair and a vice chair?
Oh, really? But this was screen. It's just being irritating, isn't it?
Yeah, to do it through the link at the top site. The municipal code is where I found it.
Oh, I thought you meant the policies. You want the municipal code?
Just where it spells out that every 2 years, does the policy spell it out better though, Heather? I could be wrong on this. It's that A of 2023.
Planning Commission every second year organize and elect the former member chair. Vice chair. By more or by a majority of the commission members constituting a quorum transaction of business.
So in my 5 years doing this, we've never done this. Just never. This has been one of the things that like I move forward in the planning commission is following the rules that's been set for it. Whether it's for attendance, election, stuff like this. I don't see where it says an actual date that we do this, so I thought doing it in January of an even year makes that easy. Because then we can do it every even year in January and just have that election and move forward. How does everybody feel about that?
Good.
Yeah,
Sounds
good.
good to me.
Sounds good to me.
Great, if we can get that on to our agenda next month, that'd be nice.
When did Cal leave in 2023?
Yes. I just don't remember when this year he left.
I want to say it might have been actually the end of 2022 because I don't think it was in the fall, wasn't it?
Honestly, that like COVID amnesia kind of blends everything, so I just can't remember.
Cal Patel was the former chair, and I think he resigned right before the end of the year in 2022. Because we'll add that to the agenda for the chair and the vice chair.
That Melanie right there?
Hello? Is this Melanie? The person on the iPhone, can you identify yourself?
Yeah, it would just be nice to have that following a pattern and making sure that we're just meeting these rules and keeping up with them. And if we do that in January, that should be like one of our first actions that night. That way, if we do elect a new chair, our vice chair, it starts at that point.
Check and see who's out.
I feel like it always happens like this. We have multiple candidates apply for positions when we only have one position. And then when we have more than one position, we don't get a bunch of candidates. So it's going to be interesting to speak with Ms. Kern and then go from there. All right. Well, does anybody else have anything tonight that they want to add? Share?
I don't have anything.
Nope,
I
not
don't
tonight.
think so.
Alan says no. Heather?
Me neither.
Just that we'll be adding some workshop items related to this development code, so they'll be on your agenda for next month as well.
Nice. Do we have anything else going on next month or?
So we'll probably be bringing the administrative code changes forward.
You're trying to get us a break over the holidays, Heather.
Well, we're still meeting this month, December.
No, I enjoyed it when I saw the questions being asked. I was like, oh, Zach probably had to be happy because Zach was like, we got stuff we got to do. And then he doesn't even show up.
I know, darn it, taking a vacation.
Good for him though.
Good for him, he doesn't usually leave, so. If that was it, just that item for the agenda and have a full meeting.
All right, well, if there is no other questions, comments, or concerns, let's go ahead and wrap this meeting up at 7 o'clock on the dot. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, happy holidays.
Yep,
Happy
good seeing you.
holidays. Good night.
Yes, thank you. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
See you next
be
month.
safe.
Have a good night.
You too, bye.